This is the 4K UHD release of Training Day, which I purchased from FOP in central London recently. It's turned out to be quite an interesting release because quite a few people have told me the colour grading had been changed. I don't think that's right, so keep watching to find out my conclusions about this particularly interesting 4K release. Coincidentally, Trevor at Double Bill Movies recently put up his own video about why he thinks 4K is more representative of how film originally looked compared to Blu-ray and indeed DVD, and his thinking is along the same lines to my own. And what we're basically thinking is that HDR, or Dolby Vision, whatever your system actually plays and is available on these discs, our thinking is that HDR makes these films look more like film. That, I believe, was the original intention of HDR, and it does succeed most of the time. Some people think HDR actually takes video further than film. I'm not in agreement with them on that because I look at films in a cinema, such as the recent Tenet and Dunkirk at the IMAX, the BFI IMAX, and I just see perfect colour, perfect density, contrast, and the whole thing looks completely natural, even though it's in this sharper than the human eye can take in 1570 IMAX. But the same is true of 35mm, 70mm, any film format, whatever it's called, Todeo, VistaVision, Technirama, all has a more natural look to it, to my eyes. And so when it comes to Training Day, I was specifically looking at how does this look compared to how I would imagine it looked on film. I didn't see this one at the cinema, so I have nothing to try and recollect to go back to like I did with Heat and many other releases. But to me, the 4K of this looked like a film. Now the colour may have been regraded and changed a bit, I don't know. I haven't got a 35mm print to check it against, but one would hope that when this was being graded for both density and colour, they were checking it against a master print, or at the very least a general release print, to make sure it looked as close to how we saw it in the cinema. Now as soon as it finished, I did my usual thing, I put the Blu-ray on, and immediately I could see the Blu-ray was not representative of how I would have expected to see this one in a cinema. I may be wrong, but to me the colours looked a little fake. All our systems are different, as I keep saying, so it may just be the way I've got mine set up, which is to maximise the quality of 4K really. But I don't think so. I think the colour is too enhanced on this, and I think the brightness is too enhanced. So I think the Blu-ray is unrepresentative of a cinema screening, and the 4K is representative. May not be entirely correct there, but essentially I think what you're getting with the 4K is a cinema visit, and what you're getting with the Blu-ray is a home video. Just my conclusions, and other opinions will no doubt be available. But as far as I'm concerned, this is one of the best 35mm transfers I've seen so far. It's very fine grain, and I know I recently reviewed the 4K of Pulp Fiction, which is exceptional quality for 35mm, but I prefer the look of Training Day. Now again, not everyone's going to agree with that, but Pulp Fiction had a cold look, an almost sterile look, but Training Day does not have that. It has got the look of a film to me. Pulp Fiction did, but I think it was the film stock that was used, one of the Kodak T stocks that was very fine grain. This may well be the same film stock, but there's more sort of colour into it, more life into it, that makes it look more like a film. Pulp Fiction perhaps was more like looking at a video on 4K, which this certainly isn't, but both are among the best I've seen on 4K in terms of 35mm transfers. Don't of course come up to anything on 70mm VistaVision, that sort of thing, but both are excellent. The sound is Dolby Atmos, the aspect ratio is approximately 235/240 to 1, and the running time is just over 2 hours. I thought the first half of the film was better than the second half, but again, not everyone is going to agree with that because the action really does get going in the second half. It had an estimated budget of $45 million and took at the worldwide box office a gross of $105 million, so not a massive hit, and perhaps because it's quite a violent film, there's a bit of drug taking, some nudity, and there's some bad language, quite a lot of bad language for 2001, so maybe that worked against it at the box office. But certainly the first half of the film, when it was a bit of a mystery, or at least it should have been, but I think the synopsis of the film, which is given out everywhere, does rather give the game away. I didn't know if Denzel Washington's character was a goodie or a baddie, and whether it would all come together in the end, and the two main characters, Ethan Hawke and Denzel Washington, would see eye to eye, get it together and sort all the criminals out. It just wasn't obvious to me, but then in the second half of the film it did come obvious. So if you don't want to know the plot of the film, look away now, because I'm putting the synopsis on the back of the box on screen, but that did spoil things for me a little. Now there's extras on this, they're mainly on the Blu-ray. I think there's just a commentary on the 4K, and all the other extras are on the Blu-ray. I did watch one or two of these, but then I saw alternate ending, because I found I wasn't entirely happy with the ending. I thought, I wonder what else they were thinking of, so I put that on, and the picture quality of that was so awful I turned it off immediately. I thought, I just can't watch anything like that, certainly not projected. Might have got away with it on the telly, but not in here at about 9 feet wide, so that just went off. So a bit variable perhaps on the extras, clearly from the DVD release when they didn't really care about the quality, but things have moved on a little since then. So I think these have all been ported over from the DVD. If you've got the DVD, or indeed a previous Blu-ray, probably nothing to be seen here that you haven't seen before, but I think I can recommend this one. It's a terrific 4K disc, and if you like the film, you love the film, then you've got to buy your copy of Training Day and support the new 4K releases. And Warner Brothers 100th anniversary, so I suspect it's going to be one of those in their new box of 30 4K discs that are coming out soon, along with the likes of Singing in the Rain, The Wizard of Oz, and other family favourites such as The Exorcist. Now, I was sent these by the publicity agent for Second Sight Films. These are preview discs of their forthcoming release due on 1st of May 2023 of Picnic at Hanging Rock. These are the Blu-ray discs, they're not the 4Ks. Be a bit difficult burning 4K discs, I think, but this is the press release that came with it. Now this, if you don't know Picnic at Hanging Rock, is a very influential film, and I'm delighted that Second Sight have got the rights to this and are putting out one of their special releases. The Blu-rays they've sent me, it's got a theatrical cut and a director's cut, and the director's cut is one of those beauties where it's shorter than the theatrical cut. So well done to the director on this one, Peter Weir, who brought us some fabulous films such as Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World, which I would love to have on Super 8. Oh, I have got it on Super 8, silly me, forgot about that. But he's done some marvellous films. This was the one that put him on the map, even though it wasn't a huge international box office success at the time. One of those sleeper films that every other director looked at and wanted to put that same look in their own film, and it's still being imitated today. I'll come back onto that in a few minutes. There are different extras on each disc. One disc has got the theatrical version of the film, the other's got the director's cut, and the director's cut has got a feature-length documentary on it, which I believe has been ported over from a previous DVD or Blu-ray release. But that gives a lot of information about the making of the film, and includes Russell Boyd, how he actually did the shooting of the film to give it that sort of overall Australian summer look that he achieved. And he did that apparently by going into a wedding gown shop, a bridal shop, purchased some veils and then dyed them yellow, and he made them up to go over the camera lenses that then gave everything this sort of gorgeous yellow glow. Every scene has got this distinctive look to it, and this gave it an entirely suitable dreamlike look for this otherworldly mystery. But it is still surprisingly sharp, very sharp. The definition is just excellent. It's a beautiful look, and this transfer was indeed overlooked or supervised by Russell Boyd and Peter Weir, so they must be happy with how this has turned out. And if these Blu-rays are anything to go by, which to my eyes look as good as many 4Ks out there, if not better, then if that is anything to go by, just how good is the 4K going to look? And I think most of us know by now that Second Sight are just turning out some of the best work on the 4K and Blu-ray market. They really are doing exceptional work, and I intend to support them whenever I can. And this is one of those releases that they're doing. They've got the original novel in there by Joan Lindsay. They've got a book on the making of the film. They've got art cards. It's one of those hard boxes again. and a sort of digipack for the 4 discs that are contained. It's going to be 2 4Ks and 2 Blu-rays, but there are standard releases as well for those who just want the 4K or the Blu-ray, and I would say this one's thoroughly recommended. Now, it is chock full of extras, as I mentioned. The theatrical version of the film on 1 disc has got a lot of extras. There's Just a Dream Within a Dream, that feature-length documentary, on the director's cut disc, and that version of the film does come with 5.1 DTS sound. On the theatrical version, you've still got the original mono sound in 2 versions. You've got a 1.0 mono and a left and right sort of stereo mono on that disc, so just about everything covered in this release by Second Sight. It's a very mysterious film with no definitive conclusion, and some will find that a little unsatisfactory, but I know the film and I don't. I've come to appreciate it, and it wouldn't be the same if it didn't have that sort of ending. As I said, it's a very influential film in the way it looked, and if you want to know how it's still having an influence today, take a look at Don't Worry Darling. Now, I might do a review of this in a future video or include it in more detail in a future video. This is a sort of retelling, reworking of the Stepford Wives, so for some of us who have seen the previous 3 or 4 versions of that, there's nothing particularly original in this, but it has got the look of Picnic at Hanging Rock, so I like that about it. It suits it entirely. It's another dreamlike film, and one worth looking at for that reason if you get the new Second Sight Films release, which is due out in about a month as I speak. And another one I watched recently, which is a Blu-ray. It's an indicator release, which I got from HMV in a 2 for £15 indicator sale, is Missing, starring Jack Lemmon and Sissy Spacek. A great film, but again, if you look at this, a lot of it has the same look as Picnic at Hanging Rock. So throughout the 80s up until now, we're still getting the same look. So Peter Weir and Russell Boyd really achieved something all the way back in 1975. Right, I think that brings us to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and perhaps consider subscribing so I'll be encouraged to carry on creating content like this. Until the next video, bye bye for now.